Hi guys, welcome to Day 8 Language Arts. That's reading, vocabulary, and writing for May 20th. This is also, for some of you, will be Day 3 of reading and writing for Packet 5 Week 2, depending on how it appears on your Google Classroom. So our reading learning opportunities today. The Reconstruction era brought about many changes across the nation. Read Slavery, Civil War, and Reconstruction to learn about these important changes. Using the topic card on slide 30 or the Determining Importance document, locate the answers in the text and determine the main idea for today's writing assignment. So if we go and we look ahead at our card, which if we're doing the Google Classroom, it's right here, we see our questions. So let's go over our questions before we start our reading. Topic. So one is, how can it be described? So that means we're going to have to pretend we're telling someone else what it looks like, what it feels like, what it sounds like. We're going to be using our sensory words. 2, how does it work? So we have to tell people how it works. 3, what is it made of or how is it formed? 4, who studies, discovers, or invents it? And 5, is it helpful or harmful to me? So let's look through this today. I'm going to do one read through as a movie read, and then I'll do a second read through where we go through and we highlight some information that might help us with our topics. All right, sorry for all the switching there, guys. All right, Slavery, Civil War, and Reconstruction. Here, our picture text feature, and we have a caption. Now remember, a caption describes what's going on in a picture. So this is an engraving titled Freedmen Voting in New Orleans, 1867. Pay special attention to the text features throughout because we will see some bolded and underlined words. This means that they are keywords and they are important. After the Civil War, the South was crippled. Many men had died. Many farms were destroyed. Slavery no longer ran Southern plantations. Once the South surrendered, the states were treated as part of the Union again. They were punished, but they also had to be rebuilt. Reconstruction is the time period after the Civil War. During this time, the Southern way of life changed. At first, President Lincoln was going to be in charge of Southern Reconstruction. His plan was to welcome the Southern states back into the Union. He did not want them to become bitter. Then, on April 14th, 1865, Lincoln was shot. He was at a theater watching a play when John Wilkes Booth jumped on stage and killed him. The North went into mourning. After Lincoln died, the U.S. Congress took over Reconstruction. Congress was not as lenient as Lincoln. Many Southerners did become bitter about the changes happening at their homes. They nicknamed Southerners who cooperated with Reconstruction as scalawags out of disdain. Many Northerners also went to the South to take part in Reconstruction. Some of the men were greedy, but others really did want to help build a new, free South. The Southerners weren't friendly to these men either. Southerners nicknamed them carpetbaggers because they often carried suitcases that had just been made from pieces of carpet. During Reconstruction, 3 amendments were added to the Constitution. Southern states had to agree to these amendments to be part of the United States. Again, the 13th Amendment ended slavery. The 14th Amendment said that everyone born in the U.S. is a full citizen, including former slaves and other black people. This meant that the rights in the Constitution would no longer only apply to white people. This amendment also said that the federal government, not just each state's government, would protect those rights. The 15th Amendment allowed black men to vote. All right, before we go back through and we highlight, we're going to look at our questions one more time. Topic, how can it be described? How does it work? What is it made of or how is it formed? Who studies, discovers, or invents it? Is it helpful or harmful to me? So here for topic, we are going to put Reconstruction. So I will highlight. Make sure you pause if you need to check the highlights. We will talk about how it can be described a little bit together. We'll put some key words in, but you guys are going to go back through the text and come up with the answers on your own. All right, so after the Civil War, the South was crippled. Many men had died. Many farms were destroyed. Slavery no longer ran Southern plantations. I think the important sentence there is that the South was crippled. That means they were injured. Things were not going very well. Once the South surrendered, the states were treated as part of the Union again. They were punished, but they also had to be rebuilt. Reconstruction is the time period after the Civil War. Oh, that's very important for when we answer our questions, I believe. So I'm going to highlight that. During this time, the Southern way of life changed. At first, President Lincoln was going to be in charge of Southern Reconstruction. His plan was to welcome the Southern states back into the Union. He did not want them to become bitter. Then on April 14, 1865, Lincoln was shot. He was at a theater watching a play when John Wilkes Booth jumped on stage and killed him. The North went into mourning. So here, I'm going to go ahead and highlight the fact that Lincoln was shot. Sorry, I was looking for my highlighter. I forgot I had to do this first. I think that's very important for us to remember, is that he was killed before he could help the Southern states come back into the Union. After Lincoln died, the U.S. Congress took over Reconstruction. Sorry, guys. Congress was not as lenient as Lincoln. Many Southerners did become bitter about the changes happening at their homes. I think that's all pretty important to remember. Lincoln was going to be lenient, but Congress was not. They nicknamed Southerners who cooperated with Reconstruction as scallywags out of disdain. So, I think that's important. Southerners who cooperated Reconstruction were referred to as scallywags. Many Northerners also went to the South to take part in Reconstruction. Some of the men were greedy, but others really did want to help build a new free South. Southerners weren't friendly to these men either. So many Northerners I'm going to highlight, and then I want us to connect that to the carpetbaggers, because the Southerners nicknamed them carpetbaggers because they often carried suitcases that had just been made from pieces of carpet. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight that Southerners nicknamed them carpetbaggers. All right, and so I think that's all very important to our topic card. During Reconstruction, 3 amendments were added to the Constitution. I think this is pretty important information as well. We know that amendments to the Constitution don't happen very often. It's really hard. An amendment is added to that living document, and this is different than a law because this cannot be changed as easily. So Southern states had to agree to these amendments to be part of the United States again. The 13th Amendment ended slavery. Well, that sounds pretty important, doesn't it? So we're going to add that. Sorry about the beeping. The 14th Amendment said that everyone born in the U.S. is a full citizen, including former slaves and other black people. That's going to be very important as well. This becomes really important when we talk about civil rights. This meant that the rights in the Constitution would no longer only apply to white people. This amendment also said that the federal government, not just each state's government, would protect those rights. The 15th Amendment allowed black men to vote. All right, now we're going to go back through and pause if you need to study the highlighted. So here's a second to pause on this screen, second to pause here, a second to pause here. So when we go through, how can it be described? So we're talking about Reconstruction. So what was it? And when did it take place? This is not your answer. This is just notes. So if it's just notes and I don't want you to write it down, I'm going to put this little asterisk here because that's just notes. And I'm going to put that over here. And these are the things that we are going to talk about, but not your answer. So this is right, so do not copy. These are not answers. How does it work? So in this case, this is kind of events that happened, right? So not necessarily a thing. Topics usually also talk about things. But in this case, instead of how does it work, let's talk about how did it happen? Who was responsible for it? Oh, I forgot my little asterisk. Remember, these are notes. These are just going to help you answer these questions because I'm not going to answer them for you. We might do one together, but we can't do all of them because I want to see what you think, not what I think. What is it made of, or how is it formed? So in this case, we're going to say, how did it happen? Is up there, right? So what we're going to say, let's see. What is it made of? So what had to happen to make it successful? Let's say that. Who studies, discovers, or invents it? So right here, who studies? Who's going to study Reconstruction? You think really hard. Who is studying Reconstruction right now? I think that will give you a hint. All right. Is it helpful or harmful to me? So think about, is it helpful for you to know this? Is it harmful for you to know this? Did Reconstruction overall help the country? Did it harm the country? So that's what you have to think about on whether it's helpful or harmful. So did Reconstruction help the country, my ancestors, all right, so these are the things you're going to keep in mind as you answer it. So let's go back to what was it, when did it take place? So this is how we're going to use our highlighting. So 1, how can it be described? What was it, when did it take place? We come here. Reconstruction is the time period after the Civil War. So is that going to be our answer? It is. So that's what we're going to say. Reconstruction was the time period after the Civil War. And you can copy that. So if you need to copy that, go ahead and pause. So I hope this helps a little bit with the topic card, and we're going to go ahead and talk about writing, and we're going to do vocabulary in a different video because our writing today is linked to our reading. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over here. And we're going to go to day 8 writing. So we're going to write the main idea statement for the reading article, Slavery, Civil War, and Reconstruction. Select the appropriate heading for each section of the article. So we've got 2 writing activities today. So when we come over here and we start our main idea statement, you'll see if you've got the separate writing packet, not everybody's teacher does this, but if you do, the article is over here again so you can reread. So 1 statement. So we've got 1 sentence explaining the main idea of slavery, Civil War, and Reconstruction. So our main idea is going to answer this question. I'm going to put my little thing to notes. This is not your answer. This is just a question to think about when you answer it. What was this article about? What do the details from my determining my topic card connect to? All right, make sure you write this in a complete sentence. It's just 1 sentence. Now let's look at the other part of our writing activity today. So you need to also select the appropriate headings for each section of the article, Slavery, Civil War, and Reconstruction, which is on slides 11 and 13. Which is the best heading for paragraphs 1 and 2? You're going to use your highlighter tool to select. So you're going to go back to slide 11 and look at paragraph 1, and paragraph 2 is on slide 12. You need to go back through these, reread them, and determine which of these 2 headings, and your 2 choices are Southern States After the War and Lincoln in Charge. And you're going to read those and determine which is best. For paragraphs 3 and 4, you're going to go back to slide 12 and slide 13. So we have 3 and 4 here. You're going to